Magic makers. This might be, I don't know if this is just me. I have agreement that you guys will be shaking your head as well. Have you ever like walked into your kitchen, staring at the fridge, eating something out of a container, and you're asking yourself, why the hell am I doing this to myself?
Hmm.
Or visiting Mr. Google, how do I stay on track for the 87th time this month or day? Today's episode is going to be a wake-up call. I am chatting today with Paige Alexander. She's a lot of things. Nurse, wellness coach, co-founder of the Real Recovery podcast, and she's a best-selling author. Yeah, you know I don't bring you any schlubs around here. Yes, there she goes. Her book is called The Real Food Recovery. If food isn't the answer, what is the question? Like, I mean, come on, that title. Paige is a real
Hmm.
deal when it comes to helping women who stop the food fight and finally feel peace with eating. And I think that so many of us are all like, we know food is a necessary evil, but why does it have to hop on my back and give me such a chokehold?
Hmm.
We get to what food addiction really looks like, and spoiler, it ain't always what you think, and why willpower is never the answer.
Hmm.
So grab your coffee, your earbuds, maybe a notebook, because I know I took some notes because this one's packed with an aha moment. And please stick
Yeah.
around to the end because we're going to talk about the tree of life in their program. All right, Magic Makers. Paige, welcome to the show.
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here.
One of the main, I get a lot of requests to be on the show, and I love when people are introduced to me that talk about what I hear my clients talking about. And,
Sure.
you started this whole business because food, you can't, like, if you think about if I'm an alcoholic or a drug addict, I just stop doing those things. If I am addicted to food, I gotta
The
live.
hard, the
I have to
hardest of all the addictions, the hardest.
I have to live. So it's like,
Hmm.
so it's not like you can go cold turkey from food.
Maybe for a few hours.
Right. But eventually your body's going to be like, I know you got a problem, but I'm
Yeah.
starving.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You want me to give you a spoiler alert from the beginning and then we'll work backwards?
Or, oh my God, lean in. What do you got?
Okay, yeah, everybody in the back, listen up because I'm going to shout it so you can hear. Give the brain what it needs. And that's how you keep it calm. And now we can work backwards with if you give the brain what it needs, it's not on the defense, it's relaxed, it's doing the backstroke in the pool, just chilling out. And you won't have all this food anxiety and the cravings and all those other kinds of things. So we can start going backwards now, or if you have
Yeah.
another question, we can
Yeah. Let's
divert to
start going
that.
backwards. Because I really like that. Because I remember, in my throes of like, I can't have moments. I remember I was listening to another coach, and he was like, if you decide you want to have the pizza because all day long your brain has been thinking about pizza and
Hmm.
you're eating an apple and you're eating this, you're eating all the things and your brain's like, that ain't pizza.
Well, can I say something about that?
Sure, sure.
Because you have to be a little bit careful when we're talking about people that are actually suffering from the ultra processed food use disorder. So if it truly is like an addictive substance, like, alcohol or cocaine or
Right,
something like
right.
that, you wouldn't just go ahead and say, well, just have a little, you
Exactly.
know. So for me, I have a non-negotiable with sugar. I can do a little bit of flour and that the next day I won't even be thinking about it. But if I had a cookie, all I'll be thinking about after that is cookie, 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 cookie,
Gotcha,
cookie.
gotcha,
So it's a little bit different whenever there's an addiction
gotcha.
involved. So one of the things that I'll just go ahead and talk about our tree of life.
Yeah.
When we created this program, we started out just as a podcast, and then organically it grew into an online food addiction recovery group coaching community. And Jamie and I create, Jamie Reno Morgan is my partner, Jamie Morgan Reno, and she and I together created this tree of life with four big branches: food, single ingredient food,
Mm,
movement,
mm.
sleep,
Yep,
and spirituality.
yep.
And when we say spirituality, we're not talking about religion and trying to shove religion down your throat. Whatever spirituality looks like for you, you need to have a place to go to for comfort when life
Yeah.
kicks you in the teeth, because
Mm,
it will.
yep.
It's coming.
It always
But
was.
it always does, and it's never at a convenient time. And it's never when you have your mouth guard in. So
Nope.
you got to have a place to go. Otherwise, you're turning to numbing of some sort,
Mm,
right? Because the brain will push you to seek comfort. It always wants to be comfortable. So those are our four main branches, and those are our foundation, our cornerstone. And on top of that cornerstone, we've got another dozen branches. I won't rattle them all off, but a few of them are like stress management,
yes.
connection to self, connection to others, education, creativity, purpose, values, inner family systems, those types of things. And what we're looking for is to give our brains that lovely little gentle dopamine kiss.
Yeah.
So we're trying to avoid those huge spikes. So we know
Yeah.
for people like me that have this severe sugar addiction, I get, a hot fudge sundae, and it's like the fountains in front of the Bellagio in Las Vegas, where it's a fire hose straight to the ceiling and great for that moment. But guess what? That fire hose, when you turn the water off, it just
Right.
shoots
It's a
back
big
down.
crash. Yeah.
Big crash, you've got a mirror image, and then you're chasing not only the dopamine, but the blood sugar all day long. So when you preemptively supply your brain with these beautiful activities, making sure you're well rested, making sure you've
Mm,
got nice connections, relationships, you've got purpose in your life, you're being stimulated with education, you're exercising, you've got a relationship with some higher power, and you're thriving on single ingredient foods, the brain just is real calm and relaxed.
mm,
Now, it may take a couple of minutes if you're trying to get off
yes.
sugar. You've got a little 3 to 5 day window. That's not always the most pleasant. So you need to be ready. You need to be prepared to go into that. And that's where support comes in. So we have this online support community where we've got 7 hours of group coaching a week. We've got a WhatsApp that's 24/7, 365, where you need support when you're going through these things and you're in a place of knowing with other people who have walked those steps, and you're with coaches that are well trained in this arena to get you through those little bumps in the road.
So let's take a step back, right? So
Sure.
what would you say is like, because food addiction sounds like this big, scary, clinical term. So how would we define it so that someone here listening, it feels a little bit more approachable?
So I love that question. And by the way, they are really working hard on getting that into the DSM-5.
Yeah, I'm
I
surprised it's
think
not there
it's
already.
I am too, because there's a few other eating disorders in there. It will be. It will be. It's on its way. It's not there yet, but you have a lot of people behind the scenes working on it. I'm going to make this real simple. Whenever you are eating something in spite of consequences, you're
Mm,
acting in an addictive behavior. Let's say you're driving driving down the street with your niece trying to eat, your cheeseburger and fries or something like that, or you're willing to be late for work because you've got to stop at the Starbucks and get your cream-filled, sugar-filled drink, or whenever you're using food for reasons other than nutrition, you're giving food a bigger job than it was ever
mm,
designed to do. So don't you know whenever you're eating food for reasons that you're not hungry? I mean, don't we just know?
right.
So, yeah, when you're eating and you're not hungry, when you're eating to numb, when you're eating for excitement, when those types of things, you're getting into those addictive behaviors, and then they become habits.
Yeah.
And then you're stuck in this loop of
Hmm.
the brain's like, oh, I remember that reward and it's easy. So I'm going to amp up the cravings so I can force your behavior to go get what I need. The brain doesn't care what
No.
it just knows it feeds off dopamine. That's its food. It's not sex, drugs, porn, gambling, processed food. It's dopamine. So whatever it needs to get its dopamine, that's what it will do. It really does not care what the substance is.
Right. So
Because it's
like,
all in the center brain. It's all those addictions are back here in the center brain. And when you get into that frontal lobe, that braking system, that logic center,
shuts off.
it gets real quiet. It's harder to
Right. This part of
access.
your brain's like, you just sit down and
Yeah.
I'm taking over.
Yeah, and I'm not going to stop until you give me what I want. So again, support is very, very necessary through this
So
process.
everything you just said, if I'm being like the devil's advocate, I'm like, I'm not addicted to food. I just eat when I'm bored. I'm not addicted to food. I just eat when I'm stressed. So it's like we have these like, but only when this happens. There's no like, if you think about someone who's in a true addiction, they are like, I can't walk out of the house without having a drink or whatever it is that I'm versus food. Most people are like, there's a situation that happens.
So there, you mentioned my biggest trigger, and you said the B word, boredom.
Yes.
Be,
I mean, how many people are raising their hand right now listening?
yeah, if I have a 15-minute window and I'm not scheduled, it's my brain automatically is like, "Oh, you poor baby. I know what I can give you to give you your brain a little bump of excitement. Yeah, I don't want you to be bored." So, here's one thing that's really interesting about the addiction. The addiction doesn't have consequences. It's not designed to think in that realm. The addiction actually is acting as if it's your friend because it doesn't want you to be in pain. Your nervous system doesn't want
Mm,
you to be uncomfortable. So it's trying everything it can to make sure that we can get you back to a comfortable place. But it doesn't, it stops there. It's neurologically stops there. It's not created for consequences. It's created to keep you comfortable.
right.
And the brain will do anything to keep you comfortable. Your brain will keep you in a familiar hell versus an unfamiliar
For
heaven.
sure.
Because anytime that your brain detects the unfamiliar, it immediately thinks danger. You're
Yes.
in danger. You need to get back to what we know. Your brain's like this copy and paste machine that it just wants to keep you in the familiar place. So anytime that you start to reach for food, let's say you're at a I don't know, a party or something like that, and you're definitely not hungry. You had dinner before you go, but visually, oh, it's appealing that there's a
Right.
little bump in the dopamine there, or everyone else is doing it, or those other outside things. Yes, that's going to happen from time to time. But if you're consistently doing those behaviors, and then, if you want to, we try to avoid the topic of we're not a weight loss program
Right,
because
right.
you are never, ever going to lose weight and keep it off until you address the addiction
For sure.
first. It will, I'm telling you, diets don't work. You have got to address the addiction if you ever want to be successful at having a regular body shape, body size for
Mm,
what you were designed to have. That's just biology. So just a byproduct over people that are struggling with weight. It's not a weight problem. It's an addiction
yeah.
problem. The weight is just a byproduct of the addiction, which is why we always address the addiction
And
first.
as I'm listening to this, I think the word addiction kind of makes people take a step back, but everything you just described it is an addiction. So I'm stressed out, so I'm gonna go to the kitchen because whatever feeling is happening over here, my brain's like, you don't want to feel that. So let's just eat because that
Yeah.
feels better than whatever this feeling is over here.
S-
Or you got an extra 15 minutes. Let's fill the time. Let's make a snack.
Yeah.
Versus like sit in silence or, fold some laundry.
Oh, sit in silence. I mean, talk about torture.
Yeah. Or
Just
fold
sitting there
laundry. It's
and
been there
and
for
feel
five
your
more
feel.
days.
Yeah. Sit there and feel your feelings. What? What kind of debauchery is this podcast about? So, yeah, right. So that's where we work a lot on impulse control of, okay, that might be my first thought, but can we talk about our second thought
Yeah.
and go to number two instead of immediately to number one? So it's a lot of brain retraining, identity
Yes.
shift work. And by the way, I want to go back to what you said about food addiction. Jamie and I differ on this. She likes to use eating disorder, and we both agree on ultra processed food use disorder, which I think may end up being the thing that gets into the DSM-5. I shouldn't just use the coin phrase food addiction because all food is not addicting. It's the ultra processed foods that are addicting. Your fruits and vegetables, those aren't addicting. You're
Right.
never going to eat 8 apples. You're
Yeah.
never
No
going
one's
to
like, I
eat.
lost my shit on apples.
I hate that. Every time I take a bite in an apple, it's, Snow White all
No,
over
no
again.
one's like, oh my God, I ate this whole bushel of apples.
Yes, that's right. So the true term is the ultra processed food use disorder. And can I say, uh, I apologize to anybody that the food addiction is offensive and overwhelming, but if you want to do the long term phrase, that is more accurate. And can I tell you that those foods were actually designed
Mm,
purposefully for you to have addictive responses?
yes.
The marketers. So, do you know the story behind the tobacco company and all that? So, do you remember the Marlboro Man? Are you old
Yeah,
enough
yeah.
to remember him?
I know the Marlboro Man, and many of
Yeah,
my listeners are like, yes, we know the Marlboro Man.
I wanted to marry him. He
Who
was my
didn't?
dream boat. Who
He-
didn't?
they were
Yeah.
like, I'm sure they got, a bunch of women in a focus group, and they're like, okay, who's
Yeah,
who's the
that
hottest
him.
one? Right?
That guy, he's the one. I mean, I was a little girl and I didn't know what I was feeling, but I'm like, yeah, I don't know what that's about, but I want him. So I was probably 7. But so then you probably remember when tobacco companies were no longer allowed to advertise on TV and magazines and
Hmm.
things like that. So what they did is they started buying up the food companies out there and
To make up
applying
the
that same
money.
addiction model to foods. So they hired scientists to add the highest degree of salt, oil, and sugar to make it the
Yeah,
highest degree of palatability so that it would addict your brain without you knowing. And then you applied this marketing uh,
yeah,
model to it where we're advertising, we're using end caps, we're using eye level marketing, we're advertising to children. Children's cartoon commercials went from like 50 to 500. We're going to put stuff in toys and cereal boxes. We're going to make it affordable. And you've got a whole, starting in the 80s, we added in high fructose corn syrup, and we have an obesity
hmm.
epidemic on the rise. And the highest growing population right now is children.
It's
So
sad. I can't remember.
totally.
There's a podcast that I listened to, and they were talking about the book. I think it's called Sugar, Salt, Fat, or something in that
Hmm.
um, area, and they were talking about go back and and go to Google Photos and go class of 1970 and look at like how
Right.
many people were overweight in 1970.
Right.
Then go to like
Yeah.
80,
Hmm.
90, and look at class pictures, and just
Yeah.
see the people like just growing. And if you
Hmm.
think about, there was when we went to high school, grade school, there's maybe like one or two heavy kids.
Yeah. I'm 62. So I know when I was in grade school, I mean, it was an oddity,
Yes,
right? We just played outside till our
it was
mom
just
called us
there were
for
only a
dinner.
handful of kids that were like the heavy kid. And then if you look
Hmm.
back now, like were they really heavy or were they just like not as like beanpoley as the rest of
Yeah.
us?
Yeah. 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 I was always a beanpole up until menopause hit. And then I'm like, hey, wait a minute. Things are starting to
Right.
change. And I was always a big exerciser, but I no longer could out exercise my calories. And I lived off the dessert diet only until my 40s. Why wouldn't I? It's what I liked, it's what
Hmm.
I wanted. But my vanity drove me to start making different choices, and I couldn't fit in my pants anymore. And everything was thickening up around my waist. I'm like, wait, whoa, 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 what's happening? So
Exactly.
that's kind of my background. My partner, Jamie, she has a different story where she fought her weight all her life, and she lost like 250 pounds over the course of maybe 4 years and has kept it off for like 18 years. She's like in 0.001% of the universe who has
Uh,
ever done anything like that.
yeah.
So she has a plethora of wisdom and knowledge to help people who are fighting this journey. It can be done. It's a long,
It,
slow struggle. And people that are like, okay, but I want to get recovered and I want to do it real fast because I want to
yeah.
get the weight off. That ain't it either.
You know,
It's a journey.
you said so many things that I had to write things down. So I want to go back. I'm like, I really think I know as much as addiction is taboo, I really think that it needs to be called an addiction because when it's called, because when it's called an addiction, it forces me one to pause and really look at my actions. And it's like, if you kind of made me do a checklist, like, am I addicted to food? And it's like, if you're bored, do you eat? If you're stressed, do you eat? Like, so that I'm checking these boxes and I'm like, damn, that's me, right?
Can,
Where I think most people, it's like, I just eat when I'm stressed. And then you don't
Mm-hmm.
realize I'm stressed every damn day.
Totally. You're
Or,
you're living in an environment where you're swimming upstream every single day.
and it's like if I didn't like if I didn't call it the word that it is, it's an addiction, I would just be like I can always
Eh.
bypass it. I could always be like
Mm-hmm.
it only happens when this and it's only ice
Mm-hmm.
cream or it's only potato chips or I could just
Mm-hmm.
say like it's not wine, it's not it's not
It's not
cocaine,
cocaine.
right? And so I feel like there should be this addiction because that's going to make me pause.
Can you tell me, or can I tell you why I don't mind the word addiction? So Jamie does. She thinks it's shaming, and
Right.
I love the word because what it says to me is guardrails. There's some warning signs there. You know how when you're going around, I don't know if you've ever been to Colorado or a mountainous
Hmm.
area where you're
Yep.
going around a sharp curve and there's literally railing on the edge. So otherwise you go right off, 100-foot cliff. Why would I mind the word addiction when it comes with guardrails? I
Right.
love it.
I
And I
want
want
that
to
flashing light.
That's right. I don't feel shame because I didn't do anything wrong. These foods were given to me before I had any knowledge that it was going to addict my brain. Had I had that understanding, if someone says, I'm going to give you these chocolate chip cookies, but you're going to pay for it and you're going to have to walk through the depths of hell to get out of that. But I'm going to keep giving it to you over and over and over and over again because I've had it all my life. And the only reason that it made me start paying attention is because my body shape started to change. I'm being honest. I'm being
No,
honest. And so, and had that not happened, which will eventually happen
to
to,
everybody.
yes, at least 70% of the people are overweight or obese, and those numbers are rising. Not only that, our medical system is going to collapse because of the diabetes
Oh,
crisis going on out there. It's so if you get off ultra processed food, you're going to see a difference in diabetes, heart disease, cancers. They are
yes.
now calling Alzheimer's diabetes 3.
Yes.
I mean, there's a slew of health problems that come with this, and so I'm on my soapbox, but I just cannot shout it from the rooftops enough how important getting off these they're literally killing you. When read the ingredient label. If you can't pronounce an ingredient, you shouldn't be putting it in your body because you don't know what it is. So I tell people shop the perimeter of the store,
Yes.
buy single ingredient foods that don't have an ingredient label. You just look with your eyeballs and you can
Right.
see
I
an
can
orange
like,
is an
oh,
orange.
this is an orange. Put it in my cart. It's
Yeah.
not like orange flavored whatever it's supposed to
Yes,
be.
yes, and the dyes and all that. But yes, just something that you look and see with your eyeballs what it is. That's what, if you eat in a way that your body was designed to process that food, you're never going to have a problem. Have you ever seen a fat deer in the wild?
No, because they're eating
Because they're
all
eating.
berries and grass.
They're eating as their bodies were designed to eat. If we eat as our bodies were designed to eat, we ain't going to have all these other problems, right? Doesn't that make sense? It's just common sense. But
And
yeah, 80% of the foods in our grocery store are ultra processed food.
it's
80%.
it's funny because it's like I too shop the perimeter, and it's really interesting when I'm like going to the grocery store and I'm looking around and I'm just kind of like there are aisles that I just skip, or there's
Of course.
aisles that I might just go in every once in a while if I need to pick up like some ketchup. I'm like, but I'm never in that aisle unless I need ketchup or I need some
They,
pickles or I need whatever.
Mhm.
But it's like there are just certain aisles that you just skip over.
You bring up a great point because one of the things that we talk to people about is setting up your environment. Work harder on your environment than you do
Yes.
on yourself. Don't have that crap in the house
Yeah.
because you ain't going to eat it if it's not in there, right? But if it's in there, there is a slow drip, drip, drip in the back of the brain that knows those cookies are up in the back shelf. They're scooted to the
Right.
back, but you do still know they're up there. And
I
it's
hid
usually just
them.
a yeah, it's usually just a matter of time, but eventually there's going to come a moment where you're going to snap.
Right. And, and I think I can remember as I was kind of, prepping for this, you talked about willpower and like so many women like beat the tar out of themselves. Ugh,
Thank you. Let's talk about that. You
I
want to talk
had,
about
oh my
that?
God, I have no willpower. I have no
That's right.
motivation. And it's like you are trying to like wrestle a grizzly bear.
That's right.
Like that is willpower. Willpower
Yeah.
is a grizzly bear, and that grizzly bear is going to kick your butt
Yeah.
every single
Every
time.
time. We'll win every time. So it's a limited supply. Yes, there are moments that you do need to have just a little bit of chutzpah in you to get through a tense moment. But yeah, you cannot rely on willpower. Discipline trumps willpower every time, and motivation. Discipline trumps motivation every time. You cannot depend on willpower. It will let you down and stab you in the back every time. It's your worst enemy.
So I used to be a personal trainer in a gym, and there was a guy that we used to work with, and he was like the old sage. Like he was just like, he'd been a trainer for like years, and he always just kind of like mentored all of us young trainers. And he's like, this is what you tell your clients about willpower. He's like, willpower is that like boyfriend that like he's just not good for you. And
Hmm.
you can't trust him, but you're like, I love him. And then you like go away you go away for the weekend and you come back early and you roll up to his house and he's making out with some girl in the front yard. That is
Hmm.
willpower.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
ever since he said it to me, I just start laughing because like everyone has that like person in their life that you're like, well, I learned my lesson.
Hmm. Yep. So we start working on habits, right? We start
Yes.
implementing habits. For me, meal prepping is my number one safety net every single time. It never lets me down. And in addition to that, I have a few things in my freezer that if I ever get in a bind, I have a few backup things. So I tell people the day starts the night before. Before I go to bed
Yes.
at night, I know what my next day looks like. That
Yes.
may sound extreme to some people, but you know what I think is extreme? Having being pre-diabetic or having your heart cracked open. So what's what works for me is a very organized schedule of I know the night before I go to bed, what's my next day going to look like? I've prepped what I needed to have prepped. Maybe it's something I have to take with me. I've got a busy day, or I'm going to be out running around. I've got an ice pack with a little bag that I put my salad in and take with me if necessary. And I'm organized. I'm freakishly organized. And you know what? Some people are like, oh, I'm just not organized. Get over it. Do you want to have good health? Get it together, man. There's a few things that you do need to do to make sure that you're safe. This is all about safety and taking care of yourself. And if you want to be the best wife, the best mother, the best daughter, all of those things, you got to put your oxygen mask on first and make sure you have single ingredient food, you have plenty of sleep, you get movement in your day, you have some type of spiritual basis in your life. That's just for baseline for whoever you are, whether you have a food addiction or substance use disorder or not. It's just a good principle to live by. And like I said earlier, it's a launching pad to start meeting all the other goals to have this big, beautiful life. Because you know what? When you start in on these processed food, it takes you out of life.
Yeah.
Because when you're deep in the addiction, you're living off the pleasure pain balance. And people that are deep in it, they're not trying to get high anymore because those reward pathways have been downregulated, downregulated,
Yeah.
downregulated, where it takes so much more to get that same high. People are just trying to get out of pain.
Yeah.
It's painful to be in those craving and needing. It's the worst. It's just the worst. So we want to try and walk people out of the depths of hell where your life gets big and beautiful and you can concentrate on other things. One of the things that I joke about is once I got off the addictive foods, I started reading big girl books. I could concentrate on other
Yeah.
big goals. Jamie and I wrote a book. We started a podcast. We have an online food community, things that if I were deep in my addiction, there's no way I could have accomplished all those things because you're always thinking, how can I get the other hit?
Yeah.
It's very time consuming to the brain. It's
It
exhausting to the brain
right,
because
because it's you're this is always going. Like, okay,
the the
we had
the
these
addiction
cookies.
the addiction is always work in the room.
Right. We had these
It's
cookies.
always
What
work
else
in the
do we
room.
have in the house? Do I need to stop at the
Hmm.
grocery store on the way home? Like,
Hmm.
what can we have for dinner tonight that I can throw some sugar in? Like, so it's just like, and you don't really realize this soundtrack. It's kind of like, going to a store and you hear the music initially, but then all of a sudden the music just falls to the back. And that's your
Yep.
addiction kind of just is like, there's always
Yep.
going to be a cookie somewhere. There's always going to be a
Yep.
sweet treat somewhere.
Yep. Yep. That is right. And it's just a habitual loop that is literally exhausting. And your whole life revolves around satisfying the needs of
Yep.
the addiction. Who wants to be trapped there?
And
Who
it
wants to be trapped there?
and as I love how you're explaining this because I want people to realize like sometimes like we're in it and we don't realize that we're in it. Like we're
I
just
agree.
kind of like as you talked about habits, like this is just what I do. Like you said, I'm driving to work.
Mhm.
Why wouldn't I stop at Starbucks? And why wouldn't I get the whatever it is that I get at Starbucks? Or I live in Boston, so like why wouldn't I stop at Dunkin' Donuts? And why wouldn't I get that blueberry muffin? It's breakfast, right? And then it's like at lunch, it's like, oh, why wouldn't I get the chips with the sandwich? You know,
So, can we talk about your mitochondria?
yeah,
So the mitochondria are the little tiny cells or the factories inside your cells, and every bite you take is ledgered to the good or the bad. As incoming comes in, those little factory workers are going, where should we ledger this? So every bite you take is, like I said, ledgered to the good or to the bad. So it increases cellular aging or it can increase cellular repair. You choose. Do you want your body to age faster and in an inappropriate way, or do you want it to continue to repair and replenish itself in the
mm,
most beautiful way? And when you are not giving those cells the appropriate macro and micronutrients, it's still going to be looking for more food and the cravings will dust
yeah,
up because let's say you've eaten cookies all day. Well, how many vitamins and minerals have you given yourself? So the body still it's got to survive.
right,
So it's still going to be looking for those things. So that's, it keeps the brain just working.
yeah. And the other thing I love what you said about like how your day starts the night before.
Yep.
And so many times and you probably hear this from women in your program, the day just got away from me.
Mm-mm.
And I was like, did the day get away from you, or did you
Mm-hmm.
not plan accordingly for the
Mm-hmm.
day? And,
Mm-hmm.
for some people, your system might be a little bit too overwhelming right now, but it's like we all can look at our day for tomorrow and be like, today is a perfect example. My husband and I had to run out and like sign some paperwork. Okay. I'm like, we had to get there at 11. I'm like, we're probably not going to get home till 2. I'm like, that's usually when I eat lunch. I'm gonna put a bag of nuts in my bag because I know that if it is truly 2 o'clock when I walk in this door, I'm going to want to eat him.
Right. Mm-hmm.
No-
Ravenous.
So I'm like, let me just put this bag of nuts, and if I don't eat it, I don't eat it.
Yeah. Can I tell you my philosophy about, oh, the day just got away from me?
Mm-hmm.
So if you plan the night before for what your day is going to be like, it's true, it can fall apart, but you're a lot more likely to stay on track when you have things ready to grab and go. You can stick a lot closer, and I cannot tell you the amount of times that I have saved myself because like I've got my salad, as soon as we're done here, I'm off to something else and I've got my salad ready to go and it's my dinner and I'm taking it with me. But I did that at 5:30 this morning. I
Right.
prepped that then, and I had most of it ready, but the last few things that I needed to add because I knew this was going to be a busy day. And the last 3 hours, I had it was open at home, but I was working on different projects,
Right.
and it ended up taking a little bit longer than I thought. But because I had my lunch ready already to go, I was able to just stick that in there and take a few bites as I'm going and stay on plan. And now I'm fully satiated. I was working on this new viral tuna bread. Have you heard about it?
No.
Yeah, 2 cans of tuna, 2 large eggs, and a teaspoon of baking powder whipped together in your little magic bullet. I put it in the Pyrex bowls.
Yeah,
I've got two
yeah.
cup, spray it with cooking spray, divide it, bake it in the oven at 350 for 40 minutes. I put a little red onion on top, 40 grams of protein, 250 calories. I topped it with a little hummus, pickles, onions, tomatoes.
That
There was
sounds
my
like
lunch.
kind of sounds like a savory like pita, if you will.
Yeah, it was thick, it's spongy, soft bread. It,
Yeah.
it tasted a little tuna-ish. I love doing recipes. That's one of my highlights
Well,
is
but it's always
giving
like
people ideas.
right. So it's your first one. So you're like, okay, how do I make it more my taste? Where some
Yeah,
people love the taste of tuna, you're like, maybe not 2 cans,
yeah.
maybe just one.
Hmm.
But yeah, But it's funny because it's like I love these little like quick hacks. So sometimes like you don't have the time.
Yes.
So like that little tuna bread, you're like, we're gonna throw that in and we were gonna
Yeah.
eat that,
Yeah. I
in
made,
between calls.
yeah, that's literally what I did. And I made two. So now I've got one for tomorrow too. If you follow us on Real Food Recovery on social media, I usually try to post at least one recipe a week, sometimes more, but usually at least one a week because that's my creative outlet. I love making beautiful food. And I always say, if you're bored or you're miserable or you're not having fun, if you're not having fun, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Recovery is fun. Your taste buds come back online. Once you get the sugar and the processed food out of your system, your taste buds will actually go back to their normal factory settings where real food tastes beautiful and you can taste it for the first time even. You don't need a bunch of goop on it. Just have your regular food. I promise you that your taste buds will regenerate to how they were meant to be.
So, we talked about like, you have this wonderful program that the Real Food Recovery. Like what does, someone's listening and they're like, okay, maybe I do have that problem. What does like recovery actually like look like for you? Am I giving up, cookies forever? Is there a way to find this middle ground?
I love that question. For me, when it comes to sugar, there that is such well, it's a toxic
Mm,
ingredient. It is I mean, your body when it has sugar has to go into defense mode. It has to the pancreas has to secrete insulin to make sure your blood sugar doesn't spike because otherwise you go into a diabetic coma and die. So that's how toxic sugar is to the body. So for me, it awakens a craving, so it's a non-negotiable for me. There are some people who maybe don't score as high on the addiction scale as I do because there's varying degrees of how severe your addiction is. Maybe they can have it once in a while. That's for each person to decide. I
mm,
don't want to mess with danger. I've worked so hard. I'm
right,
four and a
right,
half years off of sugar. The last thing I want to do is ever have a cookie once in a while because I know it's a slippery slope and I know how that turns out.
right.
Now, as I said earlier, I if I go on vacation, I might have pizza or a cheeseburger or something like that because I know flour doesn't, it's not my drug of choice.
Right, right.
Sugar is my drug of choice.
Gotcha.
So I know I could have that every once in a while. And you know what? Every time I do, I never feel good afterwards. But uh, that's what I tell people is you know thy triggers. You've got
Right.
to know what is your goal here. And if you know you could have a cookie once a year or whatever and skip on down the road or on a Saturday night, have an ice cream with your partner
Right.
and you don't think about it again. But if it's something that you haven't and then you're thinking about it, I would advise you to not do that to yourself. Don't set
Right.
yourself up for pain and suffering. How are we going to get you to where your brain is not preoccupied with food and a distractor to your life? I want you to have this big, beautiful life where no one has hold over you.
Yeah.
So, what does that look like for you? And so, everybody's different, and we work with people where they are. I never tell people, okay, we're going to change everything today.
Yes.
Was that kind of your question? Where would you start or
Well,
no?
we can also go down there because I feel like, you and I both kind of grew up in diet culture, right? So it's like if I wasn't following this 20-step plan, I was definitely destined to fail.
Yeah.
And I find so many women when I'm like, give me 1 to 3 things we're going to work on, like right now. And then once we nail those 1 to 3 things, we can move on to the
Hmm.
next pairing.
Right.
But everyone
Hmm.
wants to be like, I want to be in the advanced class. And you're like, girl, you're just in kindergarten. Like, let's just learn to color.
Right. So that's why we call this a journey. The journey is the destination. And I actually am grateful for that. I never want to be recovered because
Right.
then that means I let my foot off the gas a little
Right.
bit and I'm not interested in that. I want to always be the best version of me. So I like working on myself. It's fun and it's exciting to reach new goals. So we always say small, doable changes. What's the next right step?
Yes.
Other than sugar, you do for I have found for that you really kind of do have to go cold turkey because it is such a chemical, physical reaction in
Mm,
the brain, in the chest, in the gut, everywhere. That's just not something you can just teeter your way off of. It keeps the cravings alive. And
Mm,
I don't do the plant-based sweeteners, the stevia and all that,
right.
or the maple syrup or the honey. It all it all
Right.
activates the craving pathways. So if we want to keep those craving pathways quiet, for me, sugar has had to be a cold turkey thing.
Right. So I think, but everyone wants the sure thing, right? So for you,
Right.
and I love this, your approach is that it's like you kind of have to feel it out, like feel out what is that thing that kind of really, puts you into like the nosedives you off of the into.
A good question is to ask yourself, what's killing me most?
Mm,
So let's start with what's killing you most and take a look at that. If you're trying to look for a place to start, maybe it's your sleep. For some people, sleep is more important
ugh,
than starting with the food. So let's start with the sleep and
yeah.
make sure that you're well rested because it's going to be really tough to ever stick to a clean food program if you are exhausted because guess what? Your brain needs energy and it's going to tell you forget the sleep. You can't sleep that. Right now you're at work, so go to the vending machine and get whatever you need. So sleep may be the first place we start. And that, I'm telling you, that is a huge issue with most
Right.
people.
For most people, and I'm sure you see this too, the sleep and the stress. Like for most people, I'm like,
Totally.
if we can just focus on you getting yourself a good night's sleep and figuring out what the hell is, making you a stress ball, those two things might make it all go away.
So you want to know a little physiological tip about and trick about why when you're stressed, why you just go to the food? In
Why?
your brain, the stress pathway is located right next to the craving pathway. So when
Mm.
that stress pathway vibrates, it vibrates that craving
Uh,
pathway too. They work in tandem. So anytime you're stressed, it's going to kick on the craving pathway. It's just a quick, easy way that the brain knows how to soothe itself.
yeah. I mean, and if you think about it, it's like, like we talked about earlier in the show, like no one wants to sit in the crap, right? Like no one wants to sit in their own crap. This feeling is crappy, and your brain's like, let's do something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we can start with beliefs. Our beliefs form our identity. Our identity form our behaviors, and our
Mm,
behaviors form our habits. So we might start with, who do you think you are? What are some
mm,
habits that you've got going? Let's work on identity shift work to get you closer to having more anchoring your habits to who you want to be. But all this takes time and it's unwiring and rewiring these deep neural grooves in the brain to where our automatic defaults, we're literally rewiring those factory settings. And it does take time. And the biggest hurdle is not giving up because
yes.
this is not fast. So you need to be ready to do it. But people are so miserable. They're in so much pain being just addicted to these foods and they can't break out. And I mean, you're stopping by a fast food place on your way home from work, ordering two or three meals, eating them in the car, and then trying to figure out how you're going to fake it through dinner in front of your family. Like, oh, I had a late lunch
Right.
and it hurts. Your stomach hurts. I mean, it's so painful. And the other thing, it's done in isolation. And
Mm,
so we really focus on connection because connection is the opposite of addiction.
yeah.
So in community, you can find that connection with people who understand you, identify with you. And again, you're working with coaches that are very experienced in this field and prepared to help people get out of these situations because nobody wants to be there. Nobody wants to be trapped in that addiction.
No, not at all. Not at all. And like this question leads me into like, and you probably hear this all the time, like, I know what to do, but I just can't seem to make myself do it. How do you work with your folks to help really like bridge that gap?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure that everybody does know what to do because this is so layered. And
Mm,
sometimes when you're working with a coach, they can mirror some things back to you that you might go, oh, I didn't see it that way. We work a
yeah.
lot on reframing
Mm,
thoughts. We work a lot on staying in a place of gratitude. And so and a lot on walking people out of shame for some of the things that they've done, that they've let themselves down so many times, or in their mind they've let themselves down, when really they're just working against an addiction that is extremely, extremely powerful. So I'm not sure if I answered your question now. I can't remember if I
No,
went in the
you
right
did, you
direction or not.
did because you're right. Like, so when people say I know what to do, but I don't,
Right.
I just can't do it. And
I,
I know my question back is like, well, what do you think you should be doing?
Yeah, because most of it I mean, we talked about our childhood. I don't know how old you are, but my parents, everybody was on a diet all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We weighed at our house. We drank Tab. We had the, sugar-free, fat-free ice cream. And so I did that for the longest time. There's not a diet you can name that I haven't done. There's not a calorie you can name that I haven't counted. And, I always had the fat-free ice cream, and my kids would be,
Right.
"Well,
That
I don't
tasted
know
like
why
nothing.
yeah, why you're still buying that when you're still fat." But I mean, I wasn't really fat, but they're just being snarky. But uh, yeah, there's not a diet I haven't tried, and I will never go back to counting every calorie. If you are eating single ingredient foods, so we haven't got into leptin and ghrelin and all that, those factory settings up there reset to where your brain and your gut should be communicating at all times. Whenever you put ultra processed food in your mouth, immediately that communication is literally shut off.
Yeah.
And you want to know how this is my trick about if you know something is addictive in ultra processed food, when you put it in your mouth, it registers in your brain. If it's single ingredient, non processed food, it registers in your gut. And you know when you've had enough. But the message you get when you have the cookie is get more, get more, get more. I don't care what you have to do. I don't care if you have to eat a donut out of the trash. If you have to step over dead bodies, you make sure that
Right.
you get that next
If
hit.
if you have to make a dead body, do
Yeah,
it.
they're not all the way dead. They're just
Yeah.
almost dead.
Right.
Just,
You
just
knocked
scoot
them
them
out a
to the
little bit.
side. Yeah.
You knocked them out. They're not going to get in your way.
But that's when you have food addiction going on in the brain, it is an emergency on a
Hmm.
Herculean level to get to whatever it takes to get that drug in your mouth. And you would 10 times rather be alone having that than ever connect with anybody. I can't tell you how many weddings I've gone to where I'm like, can that bride not walk any faster down that aisle? She is
Right. We're like,
going at a snail pace.
right.
And what
It's
stands
time.
between me and that cake is that broad who is in white, who is
Hmm.
just sauntering like there's no tomorrow. And chop, chop, lady, I got cake to get
Right.
to.
Get up there
Maybe
and just say,
mince,
I do, she do. That's
punch.
it.
Yeah, yeah. Why does that other guy have to talk so much?
Right.
Get to it.
This better not be a full mass.
Exactly. You've lived in my body. I can see that. You've been in my brain.
Well,
Was that out loud?
and I'm sure so many people have felt that way. Like,
Totally.
and it's just like, I had a food and a workout obsession that it was always like, okay, if I eat this, then this happens. And it was just kind of like this checklist of all the like if then scenarios that had to go on.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, I'm sitting there like listening to you and I'm like, I am not really here. I'm like list making in my head right now.
that's right. Hmm. I agree. I agree. It's a bad place to be. And we can't stand to see people suffer, which is why we started our podcast, which is why we started our community, which is why we wrote our book. It's on Amazon, by the way. And it made it to the number one bestseller
I
list.
know,
So
and
that was exciting.
and guys, I'm going to definitely link that in the show notes because I think even if you don't, fully subscribe to us saying addiction, there's a lot
It's
of
okay.
there's a lot of like mind talk that we all have, and I think just things that you've said that I'm like, that's I'm like, yeah, I'm shaking my head because I was like,
Yeah.
there are a lot of like just I would say in my mind, I'm like, I wasn't a disorder eater, but I had a lot. I wasn't addicted, but I had a lot of disorder. And everything here really hits on like maybe I was addicted because I addicted to the feeling, right? Like,
Hmm.
maybe it wasn't food per se, but what it was it the feeling? Was it the identity? Like there was some mental piece there that
Yeah.
really got like lit up and plugged
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. And guess what? You don't have to decide if it's an addiction or a use disorder because the treatment is the same.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. We still treat it all the same. So that's the good news. And believe me, there are people arguing about verbiage all day long. And I'm like, why argue? Because the end result is the same. We literally treat it the exact same.
Right. Because I mean, if I took the quiz, it would probably lean over here. So clearly,
Hmm.
you know, and as you kind of like we're talking about this, like people are like, well, what was like the first step that you took? As much as like we wanted to say get rid of the cookies, like it's just sometimes it's not as easy as just get rid of the cookies.
So if you're asking me what was my first step,
Yeah.
when I went back to what's killing me most, sugar was the one thing that was killing me the most because I was still an avid exerciser. I slept well, had a very deep religious roots. So my big missing piece was the food and just living off of that. So I really had to address that first. And I had tried to get off sugar, I mean, for decades, I would
Yeah.
try, and it would last 7 to 10 days, and then I'd have my next binge. So I was usually having a couple binges, major sugar binges a month, and then just white knuckling between trying to use the willpower till the next event. And I never knew when the monsters were going to come out of the
Hmm.
closet. It could be a Tuesday afternoon at 4 o'clock, and the monsters would come, and I wouldn't know. And when I say I floated out of my body, I literally disconnected. My brain went offline. And that addiction can almost have motor control of the food to mouth, food to mouth. And in the brain, you're going, stop, stop, stop. You're in the fetal position, begging yourself to stop, but you can't. There's a disconnect between the thoughts and the emotions. And you just go, for me, till it's all gone, or you're too sick to continue on because I'm not a quitter. So I had my first opportunity to get through a family event sugar free. I couldn't believe it. And I did a ton of work leading up to that. I wrote out a story about what it was going to look like. I wrote
Mm.
out what I was going to do before. I wrote out what I was going to do after. I wrote who was going to be there, what it was going to look like. I wrote out when I was done with dinner, I was going to get up from the table and wash the dishes while dessert started. I was going to go to the bathroom and text my community and check in if I needed to make a phone call. Whatever I had pre-planned in my head
Mm.
what I was going to do to get through, and specifically once I got back home, so I didn't have this big meltdown once I got back home. I had the entire day planned out, and you know what? I got through it and I didn't die. And that was the biggest shocker of all. I just did something literally Herculean. I wonder if I could do it again. Maybe I might be able to do that again. And so I leaned on that success and
Yeah.
carried it through to the next time. And in the meantime, I'm planning out my meals. I'm starting my day the night before. I'm sticking with my exercise, sleep, spirituality, all those things. And here comes the next party. Okay, this is what worked the last time. I had a deep plan of what I'm going to do and how I'm going to handle it. And by the way, I didn't worry about anything else. When I was in that first event where I was at a big birthday party, and it's never just one dessert at my family. There's always three to choose from, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
always the stuff with tradition and the ooey gooey and all that. And so I knew I did it before, and I thought, okay, here's how I do it again. So each time, that first year was pretty, I had to put a lot of work into getting through each event, but it gets better. And so now when I go on vacation, the first vacation I went through sugar free, I did a bunch of gymnastics to make sure I got through that. But now, 4.5 years later, I don't even think about it because remember we talked about identity shift and habit
Yeah.
change, and it's just part of who I naturally
Right.
am
You're
now.
not
I
the
don't
sugar
even
monster
think
anymore.
it's not. They live in the closet now and they don't come out at night, and if they do, your cravings, they just go away because your taste buds change. You don't crave the same. So now instead of at a 10, they they don't totally go away, but they're at a 3, and you can use self-talk like, "Oh, you're fine. You really don't want that." And if you wait 20 minutes, it's going to go away
Right.
anyway. And just you have a little calm chat with yourself, or you text a friend, or you step outside, or you change your location,
Right.
or you focus on another project. So these are all tools in your tool belt that we work with building up, and we work on impulse control. That's
Mm.
the biggest factor in overcoming addiction is working on impulse control. We do have options. Just in the brain and action doesn't mean that you have to immediately act on things when you get a craving or an impulse. There's a lot of other choices in between there. A
Yeah.
lot of self-talk. Working on self-talk is
Yeah,
huge.
self-talk's huge because, like I like the impulse control because like that immediate impulse to, I'm going to satisfy it, but then the 3 hour guilt beat down that you give yourself after that, not even a second of thought is it worth it?
We hang out in future self. We do a lot of hanging out in future self and thinking about how future me will feel. And at nighttime is the worst for people, don't you
Yes.
agree? And so you focus a lot on how do I want to feel tomorrow morning when I wake up? And every single time I have to work through an evening craving or every time I wake up in the morning, I'm like, thank you, Paige. Thank you for sticking with me. It was so worth it. And I'm waking up with no regrets. I just love myself. And for the work I've done, I appreciate it so much. And I get to
Right.
start my day and skip on down the road.
Right. I absolutely love that. So I'm going to ask you like two quick fire questions.
Okay.
What is your favorite comfort food?
You're going to laugh. You won't believe me. I love Cosmic Crisp apples. I am an apple connoisseur, and Cosmic Crisp are my all-time
You
favorite. They're
know,
kind of newish.
they are newish, and I had one last fall, and how like you buy an apple and then you don't remember the name of the apple, and then you're like
Yeah.
kicking yourself because there's 50
Yeah.
apples, and you're like, what was
Yeah.
that damn apple? I was really good. I'm gonna write this down because we're about to get into apple season, and I'm gonna look for
Yeah.
this thing because I'm still stuck on my Honeycrisp, which is fabulous, but I've been
That's
like
number two.
trying to
That's my
break
number
out.
two.
Love it. I eat apple
Yeah,
every day.
forget the apple pie. You don't need the actual apple is so beautiful and it just melts in your mouth when you have your taste buds are back to where they should be. It's like, oh,
I
thank
love
you,
an apple.
universe.
A chopped
Mhm.
apple. After we get off here, I'm having my chopped apple. What is the most underrated kitchen tool?
Okay. Oh gosh, I'm so glad you asked me that. So I used to have digestive problems, and so I would have a big 1 pound salad. I still do that every day, but on Amazon for like 7.99, it's like this little half moon salad chopper that I chop to little bitty bits, and I don't have that bloating and miserable belly after my gassy, all that stuff that is not sexy. It's
Oh
not
my God.
sexy. I don't.
I have the salad chopper as well, and like it
Yeah.
changes salad for me. Like I would
Yeah.
make a salad at home and be like, it's a salad.
Okay, I know we're running out of time, but I have to tell you this. So my daughter calls me at 6:30 every morning because she's a nurse and she's headed to the hospital. And this morning I was going, but
She's
I
like,
laid
what's
the phone
happening?
down because I need. She's like, "What is that clanking?" Oh, sorry. Let me move the phone. But yeah, so that time of the morning, I'm chopping my salad, getting ready for my day. And when we finish here, my salad is in the fridge, ready to go.
It
I
it
do
changed salads for me forever. Like I was like, now it
your
feels like
digestion. Doesn't it help your
but
digestion?
just looking forward to a salad, like just like
I
having
know.
it chopped into bits, it just
Yeah.
like, and I am too,
Yeah.
like I have a salad the size of my head for lunch every single day
You
because
you
I can eat it for 30 minutes
can
while
I
I'm
tell you about
working.
my salad? Do I have time to tell you about my
Yeah,
salad?
tell us.
I make a week worth of salads on Sunday. I do romaine, kale, broccoli, carrots, bell peppers, and these tiny little cherry tomatoes. And I divide them up into my glass containers. I have it on my blog. I have a food blog, Food Fitness by Page. And I make this week of salads. So I have those in there and it stays nice all week. And so every morning I pull it out. I do a handful of walnuts. I throw it in there, do my salad chopper, literally like 5 minutes worth. That sucker is just little pea size, but I
Yes.
love a good chopped salad. And then I use California balsamic, puts out all kinds of flavors of balsamic vinegar, salt, oil, sugar free. Do a little drizzle of the mango, pineapple, orange, and then throw a handful of grapes on it. Mix it
Mm,
up.
that's
I
delicious.
mean, delicious, delicious every day. And I've eaten that for years. I never get tired of it. And I worry I'll get tired of it someday because I love it so much. But so far, nothing.
It's
I'm always ready to eat it. And it's simple and there's no think work in it.
no,
But yeah, I make a week's worth of salad and it may take me, close to an hour to get those bases fixed. But you can add whatever you want to. But that's one of my big ideas. And my week goes so smooth.
yeah, that's when I first, that was my lunch. Like lunch is done. I don't have to think about lunch and I don't have to think about
Yeah.
breakfast. The only thing I think about is dinner. And like you said, I think we make too many decisions. And when I keep trying to
The
make
decision
decisions,
fatigue.
I make so
The-
many decisions where it's like that's pre-programmed. Like I even just
yeah.
I go in the grocery store and it just like lands in my cart. I don't even really think about
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
putting in my
that's right.
cart.
I have in my app my baseline grocery list every week, and I have a protein shake every morning for breakfast, unflavored whey protein with spinach leaves and blueberries and things like that. And it's just I'm a well-oiled machine.
Right. And it's like, ladies, like you're going to get to this point. And I think so many of us want to make a decision and then sprint where, I love how you're like, I had relapses. I went back and forth. I went back and forth. And it's like, we have to experiment with what the thing is going to be for us. Like,
Yeah,
you didn't know you didn't know that me writing down how the night was going to go was going to be your thing. You're like, I
yeah.
hope it's going to be my thing. I'm going to try. And you're like, it worked. Let's try it
Hmm.
again. Let's try it again. And
Hmm.
maybe after the fourth time, it didn't work for you and you'd have to try something else. But you have to be willing to experiment to get to the thing that's going to be your thing.
I say recovery is a series of edits. That's
Yeah.
it. It's a continual edit, which is great. I still edit. I still make edits.
Right. Everyone wants the sure thing. And it's like, there is no sure thing. I want the sure thing too. My job would be so much easier if I had the sure thing. I've
Mm,
just really enjoyed chatting with you.
me too.
What is the one thing that makes you feel magical?
I mentioned that I have a food blog in addition to Real Food Recovery. I've had a food blog for, gosh, 20 years. Creating these healthy recipes for people that enhance their lives literally down to a cellular level. I want people to be good down to a
Yeah.
cellular level. And when I show that food is fun, real food is fun and it tastes good. And I never feel like I am restricted or missing out. I never have FOMO. I love what I eat.
Yes.
So my Food Fitness by Paige blog, it I love bringing joy to people and hearing people say, "Oh, I tried that for dinner and my family liked it. Thanks for that idea." Nothing makes me happier than to help spread joy through the tummy in a good, positive, healthy way.
I love it. I love it. Guys, I mean, there's been so many truth bombs in this episode, and I want you to like go back, take notes, really, and look into her community because maybe it is just you call boredom. Maybe it is called stress eating, but I feel that
Yeah,
there is something here for you because I know so many
yeah.
of you have these challenges. And as she
Hmm.
mentioned earlier, no matter how many diets you try, if we don't get the underneath, if we don't
Yep,
really get down into the root,
that's
then
right.
it's just always that thing is always going to come back. It's always going to
Yeah,
come back and it's going
yeah,
to come back bigger, stronger, and
yep,
badder.
yeah. Some people are really fighting with trauma, and so we address trauma instead of sweeping it under the carpet and walking around it or over it. It just we need to take a look at that if that's still causing you stress and pain underneath. Those are things too that people need to take a look at.
And so where can people find you on the socials?
So our website is Real Food Recovery for You. That's the number four and the letter U.com. And you can find out about our program there. But on Instagram, it's Real Food Recovery for You. Again, the number four. And Facebook is just Real Food Recovery. And YouTube is Real Food Recovery. I think that's everything.
Awesome. So as always, I'm going to link all this stuff. I'm also going to link the book, their book in the show notes. I also link her food blog because I mean, all of us we're suckers for a good recipe.
Yeah. My tuna bread will be up there here in a few days.
I know. I want to give that a try. All right, Magic Makers. Again, just check her out. You know, I only bring people who know their stuff. So follow her on Facebook, follow her on Instagram, go to their YouTube, listen to their podcast, because there might be something that they say that might be like, oh, that's what they were talking about.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Magic Makers. I will talk to you guys next week.
Bye, guys.